Welcome to Latin Hates Hollywood Talks. I'm Val Hernandez, your host. Today, we're going to go behind the camera and speak to Rafael Leyva. He is an LA-based director of photography and is known for his work on the films like The Last Rampage, Home by Spring, the television series Oath, and so many others. You can see Rafael's work in the upcoming Disney Plus series Ultraviolet and Black Scorpion. This series is a super-based coming-of-age story starring Scarlett Estevez as Ultraviolet, a Latina superhero.
I know this might seem a little crazy, but it just showed up on my bed. The mask chose me.
It will be premiering June 3rd. Welcome, Rafael, to Hollywood Talks. We're excited to talk to you about your work. What inspired you to be a cinematographer, and was that your first goal?
First off, thank you so much for having me. My father was a sports fisherman, and he was very good at it. He was very successful at it. And one day when I was 8 years old, my family in Puerto Rico, they bought a new TV, and the whole family came over for dinner and all this stuff. And they gathered around the TV to watch a movie. Because of my dad being a sports fisherman, that movie was Jaws. So I was mesmerized by the reaction, the human reaction, and the psychology behind, motion picture, and the effects it had on its audience. So that really triggered a curiosity. So that's kind of how I fell in love with cinema. And coming from Ponce, Puerto Rico, a beautiful place for a wonderful childhood, but the ideology of cinematography and me becoming a cinematographer was non-existent. So when I crashed a cinematography 101 class in Tisch, that's when it really clicked, and that's to me where I kind of found my calling.
You also realized at a certain point that you wanted to be, or you had to be, in California, in Hollywood, to pursue your dream. Is that correct?
And it's funny you asked me that question, because I am wearing the watch, which is so funny because I just fixed it. This watch I sold in early winter of 2007 on the street to a guy, bought my one-way ticket to LA and got to Los Angeles December 18, 2007. And that's how I left New York. Shortly after I landed, I met a wonderful man that changed my life, who became my mentor. And we had an incredible chat, a very deep chat about cinematography. And he was very much impressed, I guess, by me. And he told me some words of encouragement that really fueled me. And at the end, he just gave me his card and said, whenever you're ready, come and visit me.
Wow.
And he left. And I turned the card upside down, and it was the vice president of Panavision at the time. And I think I just turned 20. I was 23 and a half years old, I think. I could be wrong, but I was either 23 or 24. My point was, I came to LA, and since I met that man, once a month, I would go visit Panavision. And that's kind of how it started for me. I would take a bus from very far away to go to Panavision to just test lenses. And I think shortly after, a year after, there was this mega big budget music video where I came in also as a camera PA at this time, and set photographer. And the line producer was so impressed by my work ethic that he called me up, months later, and said, "Hey, I'm forming this big budget production company for commercials. We're going to rep these like insane directors. And I saw that you're young, but you also like to shoot. So how about you're our in-house, PA or something like that?" Like, it was a very mixed title. That was beautiful. That was one of the best things that ever happened to me, because of that. I'll tell you why it was so special. It was so special because that exposure to those directors in the big budget commercial world, that was impeccable, because I would be on set as a set photographer for free, and I would hand in these set photographs. I would match the math of the DP to the math of my still camera. And boy, did that made an impact because the clients and the producers and the executive producers and the directors would be like, "Well, let's look at this angle. This looks good," and everyone's like, "Oh no, that's not footage. That was just the set photographer Rafael. Is there just gifts?" And they're like, "Well, you know what? That kid needs to be a camera operator, or he should be a second unit DP." And in the mix of everything that's going on, here comes the digital world, and that particular line producer, who at the time was the executive producer of that production company, he handed me a credit card and said, "Go and buy the necessary needs that you think will be the future of shooting." Because believe it or not, a lot of people don't know this. The year 2009 or so, I would say 2010, all the way to 2012, was a very beautiful, fruitful year and time for Hollywood, because everyone who was a boss and everyone who made a really good paycheck and everyone who had experience had to put on a seatbelt and make sure the car didn't blow up, because digital was knocking on the door and they were learning about it. Everyone was learning about it. I just happened to be at the perfect time. I was 25, and here I am with all these 5Ds, So I started becoming the second unit DP to all these different commercials and DPs and production companies, because I knew how to make, the digital small cameras that are coming out at least match with whatever they're shooting.
Wow.
And then, that's kind of how, for me, that was my bachelor's degree,
But also, I think what this says is that you just have to be diligent, and you have to try, and you have to be the best that you can be. And I believe that they saw that in you, because it's a hard business. It's hard to get into the union. It's hard to get
it's
a
so
job.
brutal. It's so
very
brutal.
brutal. And here you
When
are.
I got it, yeah, when I got into the union, I was in the east coast of Puerto Rico in some resort shooting a sci-fi channel MOW, a movie of the week, a feature film. And I knew I was getting in. I just, once you get that letter, oh my God, man, I cried. I cried solidly for 20 minutes or 30 minutes out of joy. And also because a lot of people don't understand how difficult it is to get into the union in Hollywood. And a lot of people don't know that in the other region cities of IATSE, it's very easy to get in. So it's a dance.
That's a good clue and a good tip for people out there who are wanting to get into that union. But so here you are, you've done the commercials and you've got this great and you've worked on a lot of great shows, on films, The Last Rampage, Home by Spring, and also on the television series Oath, which I have a friend, JJ Soria, who was in that. But you're doing.
Oh, I love JJ. He's a friend. He's a friend.
Yes,
That's
yes. So you're doing all this work, and then along comes this live action superhero movie, series for Disney Plus, which is called Ultraviolet and Black Scorpion.
What is this thing? I know this might seem a little crazy, but it just showed up on my bed. The mask chose me. Whoa, that is full on magic! What I need is a collab, and I know just the guy! You're a Black Scorpion.
You have a mask? I have to train you.
Can we go fight crime now? I'm gonna be fighting crime with none other than the city's best vigilante superhero, Black Scorpion. So cool. What do you call it?
I call it a weapon of devastating potency to rid the city of scum.
How about Scorpion Sting? That would make a sick hashtag.
I'm not doing this for hashtags. Observe. Ultraviolet! You're not ready! This is surveillance.
So exciting.
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. Guys.
That one's on me.
There is a different vibe with that cinematography than the work that you had done before. And what is that? How did you decide to shoot this series?
Oh, that's a great point. Very different from everything I've shot before. Most of my work has always been like crime, suspense, thrillers, and in this case, when I read the script, it really like being a 1990s blockbuster video child. I have I personally have a library stuck in my head where sometimes I turn words into pictures. So when I read it, I automatically thought about Scott Pilgrim versus the World and 1989 Batman and all these movies that I idolized to specifically have a very specific look. So when I read it and I went in my first interview for Disney, I just told Disney flat out, I was like, look, I think this is something that has to be stylized, single camera as much as possible, which is, for a lot of people, verbally it sounds simple, but for the cinematography and the filmmaking world, everyone knows what a privilege and what a gift it is to push a single cam show. The reason why is you shoot an appropriate time, you do proper setups, each frame is gorgeous, you know what I mean? So Ultraviolet and Black Scorpion is a composition where this Latin family and being Latino not only infuse the beautiful culture that they come from, but they are funny. They're this beautiful, incredible, talented cast that portray the life of a modern Latin American family in America and how an intricate mask will choose a girl and how that correlates with her learning about justice and her learning about good and evil and bumping into her uncle. It's so much fun to portray. And for me, it was really to bring out all these favorite superhero kid stories that I started growing up with and mixing them with my directors to come up with the correct style that we really wanted. But in all essence, it was really me geeking out on kid superhero movies that I liked. So it was just kind of like, oh yeah, this movie, let's do that, and just roll with it. And they were very creatively supportive.
So this is coming out June 3rd. We will
Correct.
be able to see Ultraviolet and the Black Scorpion. So June 3rd is when it comes out. Thank you so much for your time, Rafael Leyva. He is an award-winning cinematographer from the American Society of Cinematography. And I am so glad that I got a chance to speak to you. You make cinematography sound really fabulous.
Oh, thank you. It's very cool. I can't think of a more rewarding profession. It's really neat. And in the words of Bob Richardson, he told me this once and it always stuck to me. We're only as good as we want to be. So if you really want to be super badass, you go find your badass director. And it's so important that we find directors that we want to grow with.
Gracias, Rafael. You take
All right.
care. Wonderful speaking to you. Bye-bye.
Igual. Ciao, ciao.